Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, 3 Things to Know to Right-Size Your Cybersecurity Tool Stack. Today, you're going to hear technology rationalization insights and guidance from our optimization experts here at Optiv. I'm your event moderator, Sarah Faraji, a technical content manager here at Optiv, and today I'm pleased to be joining Max Shire, our Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, as well as another featured subject matter expert, Dave Haley, Optiv's Senior Manager for Architecture and Engineering. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Max to start us off.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. As she mentioned, my name is Max Shire. I'm Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer. Let's rewind the clock 3 years. There was a notable event that everybody knows, and that is COVID. That really hyper-accelerated the need for security tools as we had a growing remote workforce. Everybody was forced to work from home, and different companies across the security industry really hyper-accelerated the need and release of different security tools. And the digitalization of the cybersecurity industry was extremely prevalent because of that. But hindsight is 2020. 3 years since the pandemic began, the overabundance of security tools has become really counterproductive. We have several security tools that are one-offs fulfilling a use case that may be integrated into a platform now. So let's go to today's reality. We have tightening budgets, high output expectations, a demand for security technology rationalization has really become prevalent because of those two things. We've needed to become more efficient with tightening budgets, reduced workforces in some cases, and honestly, the abundance of security tools has really caused us to have a significant overhead for administration of those tools. The integration of those different tools has become extremely difficult because of disparate platforms. And really, you can take technology rationalization as a vital step towards maximizing your return on your investment. So some of the common reasons businesses need tech rationalization, CISOs like myself need more visibility. And I think that's going to be a common theme that you're going to see across industry as you talk to different CISOs and you talk to different security teams. Mergers and acquisitions have caused us to look at our security tools, become more efficient, get them more integrated. And honestly, rising costs and shrinking budgets have caused us to look at our different tools across the tech stack and get us to understand really how do we close that loop? How do we identify redundancies and gaps? How do we ensure that we are leveraging the efficiencies across our tech stack and really utilizing those tools to fulfill all of our use cases? So we need to look at how do we remove those preconceptions about necessary tools, look at new tools or future releases for the licenses that we currently have through quarterly business reviews with our vendors or partners, and then look at the growing need for tool automation and see what we can leverage with that automation. And then fully integrate those tools into your tech stack so that you're fully leveraging the efficiencies that you can with the tools that you already have and the platforms that you already have, and maybe add some additional capabilities that are coming through the roadmap through those vendors and really realize the returns on investment for the tools that you are investing in. So the challenge that we have is security technology rationalization is the start of the journey, not the journey itself. It shouldn't be a one and done. It should be incorporated into everything that you do when you're looking at your tech stack, whether it be a reevaluation of a tool or the generation of your 3-year roadmap. So start with what you know. When implementing your own plan, look to integrate tech rationalization into all of those different processes that I just mentioned. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, where we can talk about 3 tips to consider when implementing your security tech plan.
Thank you, Max, for that engaging overview of the need for technology rationalization and the challenges that we are seeking to address. Now, I want to transition into our discussion of 3 specific tips for implementing your security technology plan, which we will cover in more depth. In the first tip, alignment is key. You want to ensure that you can fully understand and communicate how your security technology plan and rationalization of particular tools align with your business objectives. And tip number 2, security controls are just as important as tools. We will address how and why security should be at the forefront of your decision-making when it comes to technology adoption, integration, and rationalization. And finally, for tip number 3, maintenance and upkeep are required. We will discuss how technology rationalization is an exercise of continual improvement and maintenance. Now, starting us off with the deep dive into our first tip, alignment is key, I'd like to turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, Sarah. Dave Haley, I'm a senior manager with Optiv's architecture and engineering team. We do a lot of tech rationalizations, and what we've discovered is when a tech rationalization is done well, the benefits can be numerous. Looking at a recent survey conducted on behalf of our friends at Palo Alto, consolidation and integration can drive numerous benefits. 51% of the respondents said that this resulted in improved quality of their threat detection, 60% tighter integrations between the existing controls and tools that they had, and 65% said that it resulted in operational efficiencies realized by their security and IT teams. As previously mentioned, we find that there are many reasons organizations conduct a tech rationalization. To be successful, you need to know what the driving reason is for your organization. This will allow you to make sure you're asking yourself the right questions and you're focusing on the desired outcomes from that effort. Knowing what is important to your organization is the key to success. Whether it's ensuring that you have the right controls to capture potential threats and confirming that those controls are integrated into your SIEM or your behavior analytics. Gaining operational efficiency by finding unnecessary overlaps or complexity in the environment, reducing those overlaps or discovering where a platform play might make sense to save money. Validating you have all the pieces in place along with associated processes to ensure you have the right data to respond quickly and effectively to an incident. Or maybe it's all of the above, as well as several other objectives not listed here. The key is make sure you know what you're trying to get out of the tech rationalization, because that will may change how you approach it, the questions you ask yourselves and the answers that you're looking for. Working with many organizations, we've identified some common issues we often run into. One of those, weak asset and configuration management. We this often reveals itself fairly early in the process, simply in trying to identify the tools, the security tools in the toolbox. We find that we get an initial list. As we go through the actual discovery, we uncover unknown tools, additional tools that weren't in the list. And that is an indicator that we don't have good asset and configuration management. And as we dig into those topics, we validate that issue. Additional conflicts with application and cloud spaces. What we often see here is these teams tend to have a desire to buy more tools, buy more products, more web cloud space, where that may not necessarily be what's truly needed for the environment, the business, and the security. And a tech rationalization, when done right, can uncover these. But while doing that tech rationalization, one of the keys here is it's got to be taken and approached as a team effort. This can't be one person trying to do everything. Typically, that one person isn't going to have the expertise across every area of security, nor are they going to have the insights into everything that goes behind all of the various tools. You've got to get everybody involved. You've got to have the teams that own those tools, that are responsible for them, the teams that made the decisions to bring those tools involved, so that you can gain that understanding of why was the tool initially purchased, what are you trying to accomplish with it, and how well is it working for you. And you've got to have a good process flow for those teams to integrate and interact with each other. Lastly, one of the things that we see is often there are incorrect or bad assumptions that are made going into a tech rationalization. People think they know, their organization, their tech stack better, or they assume things that are being done. And to be effective, you've got to make sure you go into this with a blank slate as much as possible. Leave the assumptions aside and try to approach this from a fresh set of eyes to look at what should we be doing and how are we addressing those needs with the various tools that we have, and how well are those tools working for us. Now, not one other thing, not an issue, but an insight. As you're going through this, we come across a lot of redundancies, but sometimes those redundancies serve a purpose. So it's important as you're going through the tech rationalization to make sure you're doing an in-depth analysis so that your decisions aren't simply black or white, keep it or get rid of it. You've got to make sure why you have a tool. Is it effective? If you've got multiple tools, there might be a valid reason for having multiple tools. And you don't want to simply make a decision to eliminate one and then create a new gap for yourself that was unintended.
Thank you, Dave, for that excellent overview of common issues that you and other Optiv subject matter experts have seen when it comes to the alignment of technology rationalization with business goals. I'd like to take a moment to focus on what tech rationalization means not only for executives, but also for technical managers and analysts at an organization. Something I want to emphasize about tech rationalization is that it should never be done in silos, as we've discussed. It often requires buy-in from various organizational stakeholders. This becomes a significant opportunity for the specialized minds of tech teams to play a key role in developing business proposals for any technology that they want to adopt, consolidate, or sunset. Security practitioners can demonstrate initiative by sharing guidance to colleagues and senior leadership about the tools that they value and why. If we think of a scenario where you find numerous tools, including some third-party tools with varying levels of access and security controls, this not only leads to operational inefficiency, but it also contributes to an expanded attack surface. So when threat intelligence and incident response teams illustrate to others in the organization what the risk is if they adopt or sunset a tool, this becomes an exercise of risk intelligence. What I love seeing is how various teams can become involved in tech rationalization and demonstrate their value and expertise in the organization in the process. To further illustrate the value of tech rationalization in real-world scenarios, I'd like to highlight a case study in which Optiv helped an organization to really maximize their efficiency when making a significant transition. In this situation, a newly promoted CISO wanted to better understand his organization's tech stack, where various existing tools were slowing them down in their migration of key business processes to the cloud. So in our initial work with this client, Optiv held a discovery workshop to identify the necessary tools and see where they can minimize tech stack complexity. Now, a workshop like this might be familiar or standard practice, but what made Optiv especially valuable here was that we helped the client to develop a full security roadmap that included controls. And you can see the result in this timeline. Thanks to Optiv's guidance, we significantly helped the client to reduce their project timeline from 3 years to 5 months. Now, before we transition into the next tip, I want to once again highlight the importance of how the technical and security side of the organization plays a significant role in the growth of the business. This isn't only an exercise of risk intelligence, like I discussed previously, but also in developing business maturity. Everyone from technical managers all the way up to the CISO, they have a responsibility to share why they have each tool in their tech stack, justify the costs, and specifically connect the use value of these tools in achieving the goals and mission of the business. So technology rationalization becomes an important initiative for organizations in demonstrating and enhancing their maturity. Now, I want to turn things over to Dave to discuss our next tip for emphasizing security controls.
So the immediate instinct when implementing a technology rationalization plan is to focus on the technology and the tools themselves. This can be a good health check, but the strategy has gaps. It essentially treats the symptoms, but not the disease itself. Often the first step is a workshop to analyze the tech stack, identify overlaps, and provide a simple checklist of recommended tools to keep and discard, and then send the teams on their ways to implement those changes. And this is something that any organization can essentially do internally without third-party support. But if you are going to work with a vendor to help you with this, you should be wary if that vendor is going to simply do a workshop and hand you a list of technology that you should get rid of and keep at the end. That should not be the sole point of doing a tech rationalization. Instead, your approach should start with the security controls that are required for the environment. Again, often focusing on just the tool perspective, it results in little more than a health check. You got to start with the controls. You need to understand what controls should be in place. And when we say controls, specifically security controls, which security controls should be in place within the environment, and then ask yourself, why was a tool implemented to begin with, and how is it addressing the needs of, addressing that control and the security needs of the environment? The analysis of the tools themselves will come organically through this, and essentially what you're doing is the effort becomes a qualitative approach rather than a quantitative approach. As you review each control and how it's being addressed and the maturity of the tools and the processes associated with it, you should be looking to determine the following. 1, where do I have gaps in my control coverage? 2, where do I have unwanted overlaps? Again, sometimes there may be overlaps that are needed, but you're looking for where you have unnecessary and unwanted overlaps between tools. 3, where do you have potential to better integrate your tools with each other so that you can gain better return on investment with those tools, often without having to spend any additional money? And then finally, as you're uncovering the gaps that you find in the environment, you should be further analyzing those gaps to determine if it's a case of there simply is no tool to address the control available, or you have a tool, but you're not using it in that fashion and you just need to enable it. Or you have a tool, you've tried to enable it, but you're not staffed or the resources aren't properly trained to use it in that manner. That will help you identify not just that you have a gap, but really what attention, what needs you need to fix to improve the environment. Now, after you've identified your coverage gaps, you should be assessing the risks that they impose prior to buying any tools or filling said gaps. By doing this risk assessment, this is going to help you prioritize your work, as well as identify gaps that have acceptable risk and potentially may not need to be addressed. Knowing the risk is going to help you prioritize your remediation efforts. Often we find the highest priority may not be filling gaps where no tools exist, but the risk analysis may indicate that your first effort really is to integrate tools together better, or simply enabling a function within a tool that you already have. Using that information and the risk analysis, build out a roadmap of the immediate items that need to be addressed, the near-term items and the longer-term items, and then assign those tasks to the appropriate teams to be worked and track those efforts.
Thank you, Dave. And now we're going to go to the next case study highlight, where the situation was, while developing next year's budget, an InfoSec manager needed a better understanding of their tech stack. However, each department in the organization had deployed their own products over the year, creating an immensely complex landscape. So Optiv created a solution with the client to determine appropriate security controls for the entire organization and worked cross-functionally with different business leaders to develop a straightforward plan of action. And you can see with the client outcomes, we identified 2 areas of redundancy, 8 technical needs, 17 functional improvements, and 8 potential integrations. And I think it's important to highlight here that they worked with all functions across the different business leaders to develop the plan of action, as mentioned previously. It's extremely important to ensure that the entire business is involved in this process, and it's not just security working in a silo. In the case of Optiv, I'm currently going through this process right now with Splunk Cloud. We're looking at making sure that all of the data sources that we're ingesting are appropriate, are not redundant, and we actually are getting the logs that we need and are necessary. And then making sure that those logs close the loop into our ServiceNow instance, where we're responding to incidents that are needed and making sure that all of the integrations are complete, appropriate, and we close the loop on those. So I'm going to hand it over back to Sarah to talk about tip number 3.
Thank you for that great summary of the case study, Max. And for our last tip, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of maintenance and upkeep and technology rationalization.
So as we mentioned before, tech rationalization is not a one and done. You can't complete this as a one-off exercise and expect to see results. It has to be integrated and sustained into all of your processes. And make sure that as a part of your roadmap, you're integrating tech rationalization. And when properly executed, you can map out your technology for the next six months to 3 years. But I do think it's important to highlight that your roadmap is going to differ across businesses, but there needs to be a roadmap. And again, as we mentioned previously, your entire business has to be involved in this process. It can't just be restricted to CISOs and the security team. The entire business needs to take into account what tech rationalization is going to do for them, how it meets the business use cases, procurement, operations, et cetera. It really spans the entire business. And we really need to ensure that the entire business is involved in this process because it does affect them as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah to talk about the tech focus.
Thank you, Max. And before we wrap up, I want to discuss the significance of tech rationalization in improving the way that you visualize and analyze data. Your organization might be able to collect key data points from different tools, and there may be potential to see even more data if you adopt a new tool. But what you need to focus on as a team is how you can integrate everything so that you can focus on the data that is most actionable, timely, and important for your team. And you might find that you need a new tool to help with this, or you could see if you can upgrade an existing tool now or in the future to do this without purchasing yet another tool. So think about how you can implement processes into a single pane so that you can more effectively see what's in your network and focus on the data that is most important and actionable to you and to the business. And now, as we wrap up, let's take a look at some key takeaways. So take it away, Max.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's talk about some key takeaways. Firstly, make sure your technology rationalization plan aligns with your business goals. As I mentioned, tech rationalization spans the entire business and the security supports the business. So it's extremely important that you ensure that your tech rationalization efforts aligns with the business goals, and all business leaders are involved in the process to ensure that it's meeting their use cases in addition to securities. Secondly, take a risk-based approach. Focus on the controls, not the tools, as David mentioned. And then lastly, be prepared to maintain and weave through everything your business does, the tech rationalization efforts.
Great advice, Max. So now as you're looking to move into performing your own tech rationalization, again, those first steps, the next steps that you should be remembering and taking into account is identify the drivers and objectives. Make sure that not only is it aligned with the business goals, but you know what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's cost savings, filling gaps, regardless of what it is, you must make sure you understand what those goals, those objectives, and those drivers are. Once you've got that, you need to make sure you pull together and identify the core team and subject matter experts so that you can get the right information and ask the right questions to get that information. And finally, define your use cases. So in addition to your business goals, you need to make sure that you understand the use cases and the controls that need to be addressed within the environment so that you can evaluate how you're addressing those use cases and controls with the various tools that you've got, and then address the maturity of those tools in their ability to meet the needs of those use cases and controls. So if you're looking for outside help, this is definitely where Optiv can help you. We've been delivering technology rationalizations for our clients for several years now, and we'd be happy to talk with you and help you down this journey and with the efforts. Reach out to your account teams and they can get you in touch with the right people to help you on that journey.
Thank you both, Max and Dave, for your insightful contributions to our webinar on right-sizing your cybersecurity tool stack. We've learned how the problems of tool sprawl can contribute to unnecessary complexities, operational inefficiencies, and an increased attack surface. And we've addressed how to go about technology rationalization the smart way by focusing on business alignment, security control implementation, and continual maintenance and integration. We thank you all for watching this webinar, and please contact us at Optiv to learn more about how you can secure greatness through technology rationalization.